move to the second session for today. One of the inspirations for doing this conference also came from the work of another organization in Bangalore called People+AI. Many inspirators, actually, I would say, like I have known Professor Ganesh for many years, almost a decade now, and I was familiar with his work. So that was one inspiration that came in. But another, and then the other inspiration that also came in was when I got introduced to this organization called People+AI. So I would, instead of me trying to summarize it for you, we requested People+AI to come, and Sagar Sarkale is here today. Sagar is clearly a young engineer. If you look at the color of my hair and his, it's very visible. And most of us are on the wrong side of age when we compare ourselves with Sagar. So this is the power of AI, with a lot of young blood moving into this space and creating some great opportunities in learning. Sagar is also an entrepreneur himself, and I had posed this question not knowing that the answer was also in the conference schedule yesterday. He has built a Marathi language model himself, and so he's done work as a technical person. But in People+AI is also thinking about many other ways that AI can be used. So rather than me talk about it, I'll request Sagar to take over and talk to us about People+AI and what all is happening in the space within this country.
Hello. It's audible, right? Just getting things set up. Okay. Thanks, gentlemen, for introducing me. And before even we begin with what People+AI is, what it does, I would like to take a couple of minutes to actually identify and tell you about how exactly solutions in India are different when it comes to AI or any other solutions. So, as People+AI, we are on the mission to create Adbhut India. So, yeah, let's begin with it. So, what is the kind of solutions that are being demonstrated over here? We can clearly see there is a cool car on the left hand side, and there is an auto rickshaw on the right hand side. Right. So, this is the cool car on the left hand side is a promise that you will get speedily from point A to point B. But in India, would it really work? That is the kind of question that we should ask. Because what works in India and phenomenally well is a three-wheeler vehicle with lots of kids packed into it, moving from point A to point B in no time. Also, the cool car over here seems very, very expensive. In India, that does not make economical sense, right? So in India, solutions look fundamentally very, very different from what the solutions in the West are. So this is one slide which talks about that. So something similar, how a similar solution in the West was scaled into India. So in West, there is Walmart, which is 50,000 square feet grocery store. People walk from, they travel from their homes, buy groceries on weekends or weekdays, once a week. But in India, the things are changing. You are ordering groceries from your phones. And what works in India very, very well is 500 different dark stores, 100 square feet each, powered by 40,000 delivery agents. That actually scaled very, very well in India, right? So innovation in India is actually designed very, very differently. So we need to understand this fundamental fact before even tackling any of the problems in India. AI part comes much, much later. Also, uh, having a good car is not enough if you don't have good roads. So, building good roads so that your technology rides on very easily, very smoothly is very, very important. Otherwise, you just have a fancy toy in your house and you can't play with it. You can't actually use it to build and impact a lot of people in our lives. So I think that is very, very important to have a very good infrastructure. Now, keeping these slides in mind, let's try to understand what People+AI does. It exactly does what these earlier slides talked about. So we try to first identify the problems which exist in the space, which are actually affecting millions of lives in India. Once we identify these use cases, once we identify these problems, we try to pose them as use cases. Once we have done that, we try to build proof of concept solutions, POCs, with our partners. And then we try to scale them up to population scale. So that is the first pillar of People+AI. Once we have that, we also need a good infrastructure to enable builders as well as the end users to actually use the solution or build the solution. So we are actively working on providing that distributed infrastructure to both builders as well as end users to actually make and use the solution that we are building. So that is on the infrastructure front. But having good technology, having good use cases, and infrastructure to build them on is not enough. We need an active community, active set of members who are constantly innovating on top of each other's ideas and promoting the entire growth of the use case altogether. So that is how we actually solve a problem. So AI is too big of a problem to solve on your own. So we need collaborators, we need builders, we need experts. So this can happen only when we have an active community constantly working towards a certain goal. So that happens with community. We provide a platform for multiple people from coming from multiple domains to come to a place and work together and collaborate together. Also, what we do is there are a lot of solutions that come on the local from local regions. There are a lot of independent developers who are actually building very good stuff. They are doing research and they are coming up with innovative ideas to tackle problems in India. We make sure that their voices do not go unheard. We try to spotlight them every now and then and tell the world that, hey, this is what is happening in India. By doing this, we not only keep up the enthusiasm to build and innovate in AI, but we also try to build a blueprint of how AI should be done in India. So that is the main part because a lot of people are building AI, but having a goal, having a track of steps that we are taking is very, very important according to us. So that is our People+AI. So moving on, as we saw, problems in India are very, very different. The way we design the solutions in India is very, very different. The way we think of it is very, very different. So how do we even start working with this AI? Because there are already a lot of models that exist in the space. How do we actually use them to build solutions that are meaningful to us and not just copy the rest? So this is where the answer lies. Building use cases, building applications. So before even going over there, let's try to first identify what AI is, right? Because having this definition clear helps you unlock multiple steps that I'm going to speak about. So when it comes to AI, there are three main components. One is data, other is compute, and one is models. So intersection of all these three things give rise to AI. Data again is a set of numbers. So it might be text, audio. At the end, it will be represented in numbers. So these numbers will be sent to a computer. So computer basically does multiple operations. That is where the compute part comes, the GPU, hardware, TPU. So all those infrastructure hardwares fall under compute. Who does this multiplications in a fashion which actually makes application? Those are models, right? So data is sent to models, models do compute on what infrastructure does the model do compute is the hardware. So this is the whole thing. But I think to build use cases, we need talent, which is in abundance, in India. And I think this is what actually enables building of use cases. So when it comes to building use cases, we need to have these things in mind because having data which is specific to the problem that you are solving is very, very important. Figuring out the model which is very, very relevant to your use case, to your application is very important. Once you have these two things in your hand, you have to figure out compute, which is relatively cheap as compared to what it was a year back. So once these three pieces are in line, your use cases get unlocked. So we strongly feel that India's strategy towards AI should be use case led because we who else will actually build solutions for us? No one in the West is motivated enough to build or solve problems which are very, very unique to India. They care very less. I think, rather, I strongly believe that it is our moral responsibility to build solutions which actually impact millions of lives in India. So that is about use cases. Now let's come to what use cases we are building at People+AI. So these are the three use cases I'll be talking about. I'll go one by one to each. First is Sthan. So think of a day-to-day scenario where you order some product, the person is out for delivery. The person calls you up and say, "Hey, exactly are you?" So he might be around like 400 meters away from your location. He asks you, "भैया कहाँ पे आना है?" And then you reply कि ये वाले पेड़ से लेफ्ट लेना है, वो वाले पेड़ से राइट लेना है. So these are the kind of instructions that you actually give to make the person reach to your house. So this is exactly one unique aspect of India which we are trying to solve. Because there is no precise address or precise way to reach to a certain location in India. The cost of reaching to people is around like 10 to 14 billion dollars. So this was published in a report by Delivery. So how does Star solve this particular problem? So instead of like you being frustrated with the delivery guy, instead of delivery guy being frustrated with you, what we do is we introduce an AI agent between you and the delivery guy. So the delivery guy will call the AI agent instead of you. He might talk in any particular language that he wants to talk. Sometimes the person might talk Tamil. So we support all kinds of languages. So the delivery guy will call and talk to AI agent and get for the instructions which are meant for Indian aspects. So that is what we do at Star. It is already live, like there are POCs being built and we are like actively seeking collaborators. So that is about Star. Next is Jan Ki Baat. So Jan Ki Baat, think of so how many times have you complained about electricity not being there? How many times have you complained about water not being supplied for days? So most of us in this room are privileged enough to not give out these complaints. But for some people, this is a reality that they have accepted. They don't even complain. They are living with it. So can we do something better here? Can we make the voices of these people, which goes unheard of multiple times, accessible to the decision makers? So this is what exactly Jalkibar does. What it will do is, like you can, we are currently collaborating with organizations, government organizations and multiple institutes for enabling people to give feedback through voice. So what organizations can do is they can launch a helpline number or some phone number to which users can actually talk in their language and say, hey, this is going wrong, this is not working out. The AI agent actively seeks feedback from you and not in a preset manner. It interacts with you in the way it is supposed to be and not in a very mechanical manner in multiple languages. So that is what Jankibar does. Even this is a live project. We are currently seeking collaborators. Uh, so yeah, these are the use cases. I hope everyone is with me. Like any doubts so far, like would like to address one or two of them, or else I can move on. Yeah. So when I say when we are seeking collaborators is we build a POC. Right. We try to tie up with some organizations to make this use case scale. So that is what we mean by seeking collaborators. Currently, we are like talking to one of the state governments to actually launch this solution via a state initiative. So that's what we are trying. So the cost involved by the government. That is decided, like that is being taken care of. Like that is still in talks. Currently, capital.
Normally, we are required to do the baseline of any initiative. And there also, like, we need to talk to people, get their feedback. So, can this bar kind of thing will be useful?
Yeah, I think for collecting feedback, this is like one of the like best products out there, which is being built as we speak. So yes. Baseline data. Yeah. We can do that as well. Cool. I'll just move forward. Like, feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions. So, consume voice. So recently there was a news out. The Bonvita is not a healthy drink, right? It contains a lot of sugars that what they are promising. So there was a false marketing that went through. So I have been drinking that almost like half of my childhood. So can the damage done to my body through that product undone? I think no. But the fundamental question to ask here is: do we like was there ingredients listed down on the product back then? Yes, it was. If it was, then why did we not read it? If we read it, why did we not act upon it? Because there was like very little awareness back then to actually think of what we are eating. So right now, that awareness needs to come back. So consume-wise actually does this. We are trying to build a centralized database of ingredients which can cause harm to you, which are actually healthy. So there would be a centralized database. Using this centralized database, we'll try to educate the end user, the consumer, that hey, this food, this protein is good for you, is bad for you. So all these decisions can be made possible when we have a centralized system. And we can actually make this happen because there are other people at play. So there are producers at play, there are distributors at play. So producers can gain their reputation by delivering constantly good kind of produce. So their reputation increases if they deliver right set of goods with right set of ingredients. Once this happens, the distributors like Swiggy, Blinkit, they have a better position to actually tell the end user about the product. Hey, this is what you are going to eat. This is what you are going to consume. So having this centralized database with the help of AI, which we are trying to build, would actually enable multiple people in this chain. So that is about consume-wise. And these three are like just few of the many use cases that we are trying to build for India. So, okay. So Indian landscape. By now, like you must have, yeah, sorry. Right now, no. We have just started working on it. There's a plan out there. We have started working on it. There is a POC that is being built, but the data is not yet out. All these are start like at already. So the projects are out there. It is a live thing out there. Right. It's not right? No. Right now it's not. But source code and what is the and yeah, I list out the data point actually. So this data will keep on refreshing in the real time because the producer will keep on updating the kind of ingredients that are being published, and the AI will keep on verifying. So this will be a constant like feedback loop that would be happening in the ecosystem. So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. No, I have not. It's verified by. What is the okay. Right now, I'm not very clear on like if that kind of certification is available, but I think some approval might come in place.
I think a lot of the documentation is on the People+AI website.
Yeah, right.
So that might answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So far, like you must have understood. I think everyone here agrees with me. AI looks very different in India. Needs of AI are very different. The way we think about it needs to be very different. So let's try to understand like what AI landscape of India looks like. So this is what I try to. So does it actually look like this? I want answers. Does AI landscape of India look like this? So here I'm trying to type in मला प्रदूषण बद्दल निबंध लिहायचा आहे. So I'm trying to basically interface with an AI agent to help me write an essay about pollution. So think of the effort that I had to put through to get to this point. I have to type in English. So the first one is the most natural thing that comes to me. Typing in English as it is. The second one is a bit more difficult. Mala Pradushan Madhan. I have to write it in Marathi, and the kind of keyboard that is available with me is very limiting. We'll have to half of the time we are finding letters. What needs to be typed in. So that's about like also this is not just about typing. You have to find the right keyboard which suits your need in a particular language. There is transliteration which takes place, which is in the third image that you can see. So is this what AI landscape of India looks like? Is this how we are going to interact with so-called cool technology of the West? So that is something that we need to ask. In India, even the interaction of human with AI looks very different. We won't be interacting with keyboards with AI. We would be using voice. We would be talking to AI agents on phone. Am I still audible? Yeah. So we would be talking to AI agents or via voice, and not like this. Is what I see. Also, AI landscape of India is shaped by these three fundamental things: research, application, and adoption. So research is the backbone on which everything else will be riding on. You have to be very strong over here at research. There are some institutes who are actually doing very great job at research. And most of us in India are building application layer on top of that research. So this research is borrowed, adapted, and like uniquely built for India. Similarly, application is uniquely built for India. And adoption also looks much different in India. I'll walk you through like what exactly is being researched being built out there, and like how would the adoption look like. So when it comes to research, there's a lot of research going on and an active effort going on getting the data, getting the right set of data to build the models which are out there right now. So this data can be categorized into two things. One is training data and one is application data. So in training data, it is very simple. It's question answer pairs. So you might be given some paragraphs. You have to summarize it. So summarizing the paragraph would be a task. So that would be a question answer pair. Similarly, translating a sentence from say Marathi to English, Marathi to Hindi. So these are like some simple tasks which are expected out of model while training the model. So that is our training data when it comes to training. And once you have this training data, the model learns some basic feature, some basic usages of language, how to follow the instructions. Once the model understands how to follow the instructions, you have to teach it or rather fine tune it for your use case. So getting data for your use case is of primary importance. Without having good data for your application, you cannot build good applications at all. So that is one thing that we need to keep in mind before even thinking about applications. What thing we are trying to solve. So that is our thinking data. So data is the biggest enabler. A lot of people are actually providing data as a service to help people build LLMs, help people build speech models. So that is currently happening. Right now on the frontiers of model building game is AI for Bharat and Sarvam.ai. So these two are like very prominent leaders who are actually in the model building business. So AI for Bharat is also a research field. They also collect lots of data. They open source it. They have a lot of partners. They have a lot of collaborators, and they have the ability to collect a lot of ground data. So there is a one data set out there which is just audios of multiple people across the country. So here accents, various dialects of the person, ज्याला आपण बोली म्हणतो मराठीमध्ये. So all these things get captured through these kinds of efforts. So data as an effort is being led by AI for Bharat. We at People+AI are also contributing to that effort. So data drives any model out there. If model building is concerned, data is the key. So there are a lot of speech models which are being built by server. They are also open sourcing it. Some of them is exposed via India. So yeah, that is about speech models, and the way we think of models needs to change. It's not just about building models. We also have to understand what are the capabilities of these models. How good are they? So for that, there are some benchmarks which exist in English, right? But there are close to no benchmarks that exist in local languages of India. So how do we even understand, hey, if this model I'm using for my use case, will it even work for this language? We have to be in a position to specifically point out that these are the mistakes that my model might do. But currently, that mechanism to identify how good a model is does not exist. So I'm currently working on that at People+AI, and AI for Bharat as well has published some research around this, multiple research papers around evaluating Indic models, Indic LLMs, and audio speech recognition models. So that's about research front. When it comes to applications, then as you can see, there are multiple domains that exist. So right now, applications for education, I would say, are mostly centered around problem solving, helping people speak fluently in a certain language, helping people learn a particular language. So there is an app by Joe Stocks, which teaches you to talk in English via your regional language. So if you know Marathi, you will be able to interact with the app in Marathi and also learn English as we speak. I'm not so then that's an internal app I do so I need to check the yeah. So that's on the education part. On healthcare part, there is one AI who has they have built an app for recording your talk, and that recording they use for pre-screening for the TB. So you can identify if the person has TB while just a small recording. The person does not need to go to a doctor. And so some pre-diagnostic elements of TB can be covered just while single recording. So that is what one AI is doing. There is Miramai AI, who helps for breast cancer via thermal imaging. So here it is a non-intrusive way to identify if someone has cancerous cells via thermal imaging. So that's on the healthcare front. Uh, yeah, also the last three sectors, insurance, banking, and gaming, they have a lot of potential, which is still in time. There are few startups which are working on it, but I think there's still a lot of things to uncover over there because uh, you and I are in a position to read a lot of documents. We understand them, but think of a person who is in tier 2, tier 3 city. He does not have the patience nor the skills to analyze and read a ton of documents. So how can we enable the person in tier 2, tier 3 cities to actually make a wise decision before signing any document? I think that is what applications in this sector will look like, and there are already some people working on it. So yeah, so India's AI advantage is actually applications. So how does India's success in AI look like? You have an option to interact with this AI agent, whatever application you build in your own language. So that is the first and primary thing that needs to happen. Right now, we are very, very limited by language when it comes to AI. There are some efforts being done over there, but they are still not complete. There is much more potential to make it better and better. So vernacular being solutions being vernacular is of prime importance. Next is being affordable. So imagine like how many of us are actually paying for ChatGPT's plus subscription, which is like $20 per month. I don't know like who does that. But if you are a developer, if you are actually building AI solutions, then it makes sense for you to pay that $20. Yesterday, Sam Altman launched another subscription which is $200. Who in India is going to even pay $20? Forget about $200 that needs to be paid. So we need to make solutions which are very, very affordable. And this can only happen if there is such an infrastructure at base, which is very, very accessible to the model builders as well as end consumers. Because the models need a place to run. The model needs to be small enough to run at scale. And if the model is small, it exactly tackles your use case. Because small language models are meant to be used for very narrow use cases. And that is what we are trying to solve. So having a good infrastructure is very, very important to make it affordable. Once you have affordability in part, the integration part. So think of 10 years back, we are not very used to making UPI transactions. Now, almost every one of us in this room makes UPI transactions without even thinking twice. They just open an app, scan the QR code, and just pay it out. So this is what integration means. Your solutions need to be mobile first. It needs to be accessible to the larger population, and almost everyone nowadays has a mobile phone. So this is how accessibility can fall into place, and we can integrate these solutions. I already talked about digital infrastructure. So before leaving, I just want you to like have this thought in mind. AI won't change the world. Like we are going to change the world. It is up to us. It is up to us to build applications that make sense to the Indian context, Indian culture. So it is us who will bring about the change. So yeah, that's my bit. Thanks.
I think for all of us who have been in Stars Forum conferences over many years, I think I would not be wrong if I say that Sagar has been the youngest presenter in all our conferences. So a big round of applause for Sagar. And it also helps to have him as a roommate before a conference like this. So I got to know a lot about what he is going to present, and he got to know a lot about who's in the room and so on. So that I think contributed to make this presentation very useful and valuable. So thanks a lot, Sagar, for coming and being with us. This was also obviously going to clear a lot of concepts in our mind, but some of the takeaways, I think, from the 45 minutes that we had with Sagar. One is that we have to start by first identifying a problem. If we don't have a problem, AI can't chase problems. Problems have to chase AI. I think that's the first thing that I got. That clarification came. The second very important thing that I learned from my conversation with Sagar is once you identify a problem, figure out if AI is a solution or not. Do not make an assumption that there is a solution, AI is the solution for this. Because as we understood, putting together an AI solution is a time consuming affair, it's a costly affair. Without data, AI will not work. I think that the Venn diagram that you showed tells us a lot about the importance of data. Without the data, you can't know. And to use the expression that Deepa shared today morning, that think of ChatGPT as the zip file of the internet. Okay, which is basically it has all the information on the internet as data available to answer questions. So that was very important. The data is important for us, and it's good to know who's working on data, who's taking the lead on data collection, and so on. The next important thing was the use of this term model. For us we use things like ChatGPT and all that. These are the models that you were talking about, right? So when somebody from the AI world says model, in our mind it should translate to things like ChatGPT, Gemini, Midjourney, and many of the tools that we use, Notebook LM. These are all models. That was the other part of the Venn diagram that you showed. And the third one, which is most important, is the hardware, or what is the computational resource. Because everybody says, ChatGPT created this poem in 5 seconds. But imagine the amount of computation, the hardware resources that are required behind the scene to create that kind of a quick response. And also, what Srinivas Kulkarni said yesterday morning about whether, looking at the energy consumption that AI infrastructure requires, we have to be also mindful of the fact that it might put net zero even slow down the process to get to net zero. So it's not just something that we can blindly adopt. So thanks a lot, Sagar, for bringing that clarity in our listening. And I think another important takeaway from what you said is, in India we cannot have text-driven AI solutions, in the sense that most people, for us, typing and reading, writing is second nature. But for 80 to 90% of Indians, that is not second nature. So if we really have to percolate it down to the base of the pyramid, as is normally called, we have to make it voice enabled, not text enabled. A person should be able to speak into a model or an AI tool and then get the response in the language that he or she understands. And that is where this other aspect that we talked about is accent, dialects, multiple languages, being able to detect the dialect. So if I'm talking to an AI model, the model should recognize what language I'm speaking and which body of the language I'm speaking. I should not be telling I'm going to tell you in Marathi. The language recognition has to start from there and then so on and so forth. So there is this additional layer of complexity which we have to be mindful of in India when we build AI solutions, making it speech to speech rather than text to speech, and very cognizant of the language and the dialects that are there. So thanks a lot for bringing all this to our attention. We will now take a short tea break and come back in about 10 minutes or so. After which we'll have the next session from yeah, Dr. Dr. Yogesh Kulkarni. But before that, may I request Narendra Paul, our trustee, to felicitate Sagar Sarkale. Right. Thanks.